In her youth, Oh Mal-soon had a fantastic singing voice and aspired to be a singer, but unfortunately missed her chance. Now elderly, her life is a mess. Her daughter, Ban Ji-suk, is a successful executive at a large company, but is distant from her mother. Her son-in-law is unsuccessful in business, repeatedly failing until he managed to open a tutoring center, which also faced competitive challenges. Only her granddaughter, Choi Ha-na, remains close to her. Ha-na excels academically but shares her grandmother's passion for singing. They often sneak out to karaoke together. During one session, Ha-na interrupts Mal-soon, noticing she couldn't hit the high notes anymore. Mal-soon sighs, acknowledging her aging voice. Despite her vocal decline, Mal-soon remains passionate about singing. On her daughter's birthday, she prepares a feast and mentions wanting to join a singing show. Her daughter immediately objects, fearing embarrassment. Her son-in-law and Hana also discourage her, fearing community ridicule. Nevertheless, Mal-soon is determined, arguing that her life is already full of regrets, and adding one more wouldn't matter. Seeing this, her son-in-law smiles and shifts the conversation to Hana's need to focus on her studies to get into Seoul University. Hana, feeling the pressure, rushes out without finishing breakfast. This leads to a confrontation where Ban Ji-suk claims she managed fine without proper breakfasts, implying Mal-soon's upbringing was inadequate. Hurt, Mal-soon leaves with an old friend on a motorcycle to attend a seniors class. In the class, the students are asked to write a poem about love. While another elderly student boasts about her husband's love, Mal-soon writes nothing but "write to silence" in her notebook, reflecting her status as a widow for over 50 years. Post-class, her friend points out that love isn't limited to romantic relationships, suggesting she could have written about familial love. Dissatisfied, Mal-soon reflects on the lack of warmth from her daughter despite her efforts, feeling unappreciated and questioning the presence of love in her life. Mal-soon's old friend reminded her of his constant companionship, suggesting it was true love. However, Mal-soon was more upset, recalling that he had left her for abroad in their youth, causing them to miss their chance. Now, he speaks of love too late. Despite her family's doubts, Mal-soon is determined to participate in a singing program. She wears a nice yellow blazer for the show, and her friend comforts her to forget all regrets for the day and just enjoy singing. When it was her turn, Mal-soon took a deep breath, suppressed her anxiety, and went on stage. She chose to sing a debut song by a famous singer, telling the judges that the song completely represented her feelings. As she started singing, she became more engaged, but the original singer in the audience stared at her mockingly. Noticing this, her voice faded until she couldn't sing the last line. After stepping off stage, the original singer mocked her, saying not everyone can be a singer. Mal-soon walked backstage, emotionally crushed, and silently cried behind the curtains. As her family predicted, she failed and felt humiliated, wishing to sleep forever and never wake up. Her friend continued to comfort her, but sounds of an argument came from Mal-soon's home. Her granddaughter, Choi Ha-na, suddenly declared to her parents her intention to give up university to pursue her passions. Ban Ji-suk couldn't accept this, arguing that in today's competitive society, survival without an education and prestigious degrees was impossible. Trying to mediate, Mal-soon asked her daughter to listen to Hana's reasons, which angered Ban Ji-suk. She felt she was just enforcing the same educational values her mother had imposed on her. Hearing her daughter's complaints, Mal-soon felt wronged. After her husband's death, she struggled to raise her daughter by selling soup, only to face her grievances now. The argument escalated, and Mal-soon angrily asked her daughter to speak her mind, leading to Ban Ji-suk expressing a wish to live apart from her mother. Disappointed and without further argument, Mal-soon felt rejected by her daughter. That night, she walked alone on the streets, feeling old and unneeded. It started to rain, and a taxi driver stopped to offer her a ride. She got in without a destination, only to find herself in a photo studio filled with portraits of deceased elderly upon waking. Deciding she was there already, she opted to have her photo taken. The studio owner arrived, and Mal-soon realized he was the taxi driver, who strangely claimed he had never driven a taxi and was only the photo studio owner. Mal-soon thought she recognized someone but was mistaken. She then sat down, started applying makeup in front of the mirror, and tried to hide her signs of aging. The studio owner was ready with the camera. Mal soon smiled, and as the camera clicked, the owner disappeared. Turning to the mirror, she was shocked to see her reflection without wrinkles or gray hair, looking like she was in her 20s again. Mal soon screamed in disbelief. The studio was well lit, which reassured her she wasn't in hell. She pinched herself, feeling pain, confirming she wasn't dreaming. With doubt and excitement, Mal soon left the photo studio. Outside was a bustling crowd, clearly the real world. She looked back at the studio, noticing its name was Youth. To confirm her reality, she asked several elementary school students if she looked like a grandmother or a young lady. Playfully, they replied she looked young but dressed and styled like their grandmother. Now sure of her regained youth, Mal soon took a taxi to a nearby supermarket. As she arrived, the store owner threw a bucket of water, which Mal soon agilely dodged, realizing her back and legs no longer hurt. The water ended up splashing on her old friend's son instead. Calming down, Mal soon did a split in front of a roadside mirror, feeling flexible and smooth-skinned. Deciding to embrace this as a divine gift, she eventually felt hungry and went to a soup and rice restaurant, which she owned until a few days ago before handing it over to two brothers because of her son-in-law's incompetence. In the restaurant, Mal soon sat down, expertly checked the side dishes, and tasted the soup, immediately starting to critique the food quality. After eating and instructing the brothers on the recipes to restore the former taste, she wandered the streets bored. By chance, her daughter, Ban Ji-sukun, walked past without recognizing her own mother. Mal soon returned to the youth photo studio, only to find it gone. Looking at her reflection in a shop window, she realized her outfit was too outdated. She entered a clothing store, bought a Chanel-style vest and a floral long skirt, and after dressing up, walked the streets. Her gaze fell on an old bar sign filled with memories from her youth. 50 years ago, Mal soon had worked at the bar, where she met a group of vibrant college students and even sang a song with one of them. Reminiscing, she walked into the bar. 50 years later, the bar had changed drastically, especially with a self-service ordering machine that, Mal soon didn't know how to operate. As she struggled with the English instructions and various buttons, a young woman kindly helped her order. It turned out to be her granddaughter, Choi Ha-na, who Mal soon discovered was singing in a band at the bar. After Ha-na's performance, Mal soon waited outside and invited her to a nearby cafe, pretending to be the granddaughter of a friend from her hometown who had met Ha-na as a child. Despite noticing Mal soon using an old model phone similar to her grandmother's, Ha-na believed her story. After their chat, as Ha-na was about to leave, Mal soon desperately grabbed her hand, claiming she was homeless and scared. The kind-hearted Ha-na then took Mal soon to a karaoke bar where she sang and danced heartily without feeling tired. However, excitement turned to discomfort as Mal soon felt menstrual cramps and rushed to buy sanitary pads at the supermarket. Embarrassed by the complex array of products, she grabbed a random pack. At that moment, a man appeared. Mal soon didn't recognize him and tried to leave with the pads, but he stopped her, saying he would wait outside the restroom. After exiting, Mal soon ignored the man and walked up to Ha-na, who was in a hurry to go home for an audition at an entertainment company the next day and couldn't stay with Mal soon any longer. The man blocked Mal soon again, calling her Emily. He introduced himself as Daniel, a board member of the entertainment company, planning to debut a girl group with Emily as the core member. Recently, Emily had disappeared, and despite Daniel's attempts to contact her, she hadn't responded. Earlier, Mal soon had posed for some photos for a discount at a clothing store, and Daniel had seen these photos, mistaking Mal soon for the missing Emily because they looked identical. Mal soon thought Daniel was delusional until he showed her a video of Emily singing, who looked just like her. Daniel believed Emily was joking with him and asked her to return to the company to prepare for her debut. Holding the business card Daniel gave her, Mal soon felt overwhelmed by the bizarre and lengthy day. At night, near her home, she heard her daughter, Ban Ji-suk, laughing joyously. Today, Ban Ji-suk had been promoted and was celebrating with her husband, seemingly unconcerned about her mother's whereabouts. Mal soon felt neglected, as if no one in her family cared about her anymore. The next day, curious, Oh Mal Soon visited Daniel's entertainment company. Daniel promised to make her a top singer, but Oh Mal Soon was anxious about being discovered as an imposter. Despite her hints about her true identity, Daniel firmly believed she was indeed Emily. Reluctantly, Oh Mal Soon agreed to Daniel's plan to launch her career. Daniel was strict, giving her only 3 months to train before debuting. Meanwhile, her granddaughter, Choi Hana, came for an audition and saw someone from behind who looked just like her grandmother. However, this person was stylishly dressed, appearing as a high-ranking professional. As Oh Mal Soon walked out of Daniel's office, she came face to face with Hana. Shocked, Oh Mal Soon saw her own aged face on the younger woman. When Oh Mal Soon and another were both surprised, the rest of the girl group appeared and took her away. The members constantly mocked and ridiculed Emily, warning her not to cause more trouble. It was clear that Emily had been bullied within the group before. Meanwhile, a woman who looked exactly like the elderly Oh Mal Soon asked to see Daniel, but was stopped by staff because she didn't have an appointment. Oh Mal Soon's granddaughter, Choi Hana, saw the woman and thought she was her grandmother, admiring how fashionable she had become, and telling her not to wander off and to come home quickly. However, the woman did not recognize Choi Hana at all, and had no idea who the girl in front of her was. Choi Hana was at the company to participate in a trainee audition. Seeing Choi Hana, Daniel remembered his promise with Emily. Emily had stated that the only condition to continue her trainee status was to ensure Choi Hana passed the audition. Choi Hana performed well in singing and dancing, and the judges almost unanimously approved her. Oh Mal Soon, overhearing this, was secretly pleased. That evening, Choi Hana rushed home thinking her grandmother had returned but found no one at home, feeling a deep sense of loss and missing her grandmother more than ever. The next day, Daniel brought Oh Mal Soon into the team, asking the members to cooperate with her to complete pre-debut practices quickly. The members were still rude to Emily, challenging her at every turn. Emily, however, did not comply with them, spoke in an old person's tone, calling her teammates kids, and declared she would compete fairly with them. Emily's personality had changed dramatically, and while the executives suspected her identity, Daniel was sure her voice was her identity card that could not be mistaken. That night, Daniel stopped Oh Mal Soon and took her to a restaurant for hot pot, questioning her in English about her sudden change, wondering if she had any complaints about him. Oh Mal Soon did not understand a word of Daniel's English and even saw him as her grandson, handing him a chili pepper and advising him to stay strong in these tough times and to survive well. After advising, she looked intently at Daniel's face, wondering whose handsome grandson he could be. Daniel then presented the trainee contract for Oh Mal Soon to sign, and with the signature, he finally felt relieved, poured a drink, but Oh Mal Soon handed him another chili pepper, advising him like an elder to take care of his health and to always eat side dishes before drinking. The next day, waking up from the dorm, Oh Mal Soon realized her unknown journey as a trainee had begun. To manage her figure, breakfast for trainees was only a vegetable salad. Oh Mal Soon started nagging that young people should eat well, otherwise they wouldn't grow tall. After the salad, it was time to weigh in. The youngest girl in the team, due to her habitual overeating, was overweight, and the lady in charge immediately asked her to run an extra hour on the treadmill. Oh Mal Soon then began her old-fashioned nagging, not understanding why today's youth were so harsh on themselves. The formal practice began, and when it was Oh Mal Soon's turn, as an elderly person who couldn't dance, she couldn't keep up with the beat, prompting laughter from the members. To prevent Emily from becoming a laughingstock, Daniel, who witnessed the scene, asked the dance instructor to keep Emily for one-on-one intensive training. While following the dance videos of the members, Oh Mal Soon started mimicking their moves. Unable to stand the sight, the company executives took Emily directly to a hair salon for a complete makeover. With the stylist's effort, Oh Mal Soon's old lady hair was transformed into a youthful style with bangs and buns, instantly elevating her aura. Staring at the mirror, Oh Mal Soon couldn't believe the beautiful girl reflected was herself. Seeing Emily's new look, Daniel was surprised. Oh Mal Soon walked into the company with her head held high, feeling so youthful that even if it was a dream, it was worth it. Oh Mal Soon went to the singing room, reminiscing about her younger days of singing while picking up the microphone to sing alone. During her performance, Daniel joined in, playing the guitar as her accompaniment. Oh Malsoon's singing was melancholic and emotional. At Daniel's suggestion, she sang another song, more lighthearted and cheerful, getting completely lost in the music with Daniel's accompaniment. Yet, Daniel was not satisfied and handed Emily a stack of papers, instructing her to memorize the lyrics of new songs instead of singing old tunes. That night, Oh Malsoon struggled to memorize the lyrics. Strangely, as the music played through her headphones, her heart raced, and images of Daniel kept popping into her mind. Meanwhile, her granddaughter, Choi Ha-na, received a call that she had passed the company's trainee audition and was overjoyed. The next morning, against her mother's objections, Choi Ha-na packed her bags to move into the company dormitory. Oh Malsoon appeared early to greet Choi Ha-na and encouraged her to give it her all. Choi Ha-na was surprised to see the granddaughter of the elderly friend she met that night also there. Oh Malsoon didn't explain much and led Choi Ha-na into the dormitory. Choi Ha-na's room was small but cozy enough, making her very happy. Seizing the opportunity, Oh Malsoon asked about Choi Ha-na's grandmother, but Choi Ha-na was not worried at all, believing her grandmother to be a very strong person who didn't need much concern. This angered Oh Malsoon, who questioned why Choi Ha-na wasn't trying to find her grandmother. Oh Malsoon then went out to drink alone. A stranger approached her, but she mocked him, saying that in the past, someone with such a cheap smile would have been long buried. Her words, however, only aroused the man's desire. Oh Malsoon continued to taunt him, criticizing that he was nothing more than a sphincter muscle, and dared to call himself a man. The creepy man grew increasingly fond of Oh Malsoon and made a move on her. She promptly flipped him over onto a table. At that moment, Daniel, who was dining at the pub, witnessed the scene. Surprised, Oh Malsoon quickly released the man's hand. Unexpectedly, Daniel acted even more decisively, pinning the man down with one hand and telling Oh Malsoon to call the police immediately. The next day, Daniel laughed heartily while watching a video of Oh Malsoon's comical dance and recalling her comment from the previous night about the man having nothing but a sphincter muscle. When Oh Malsoon approached, Daniel instantly composed himself and put on a serious face. She came to explain the previous night's incident. Daniel started lecturing her, saying that her behavior could jeopardize her debut and everyone's efforts. Oh Malsoon quickly apologized, promising not to repeat such behavior. Surprisingly, Daniel did not dwell on the issue. Instead, he took Oh Malsoon to meet a certain chairman. Upon meeting the chairman, Oh Malsoon was almost shocked because the chairman was an old acquaintance with whom she had a complicated past. 50 years ago in a bar, Oh Malsoon had met a young man who admired her singing voice and publicly praised it. Sadly, the young man died shortly afterward. At his funeral, his relatives gave Oh Malsoon a songbook containing songs he had written, hoping she would sing them. Not understanding music notation, she was fortunate when her friend Kim A-shim appeared at the bar. Kim A-shim took the songbook, promising to record the songs and give them to Oh Malsoon. However, Kim selfishly claimed the songs as her own, and even launched her singing career with one of them. Kim did not recognize Oh Malsoon but mentioned to Daniel that Emily resembled someone she knew in the past. Oh Malsoon learned from Daniel that if Emily succeeded and reached international fame, it would be a perfect capstone to Kim A-shim's life as chairman. Oh Malsoon began to complain, questioning whether her hard work was merely benefiting her foe. Confused, Oh Malsoon sought advice from her granddaughter, Choi Ha-na, on choosing between fulfilling a 50-year-old dream and avenging a 50-year-old grudge. Choi Ha-na advised choosing the dream, suggesting that achieving it might be the best way to get back at her enemy. Her words enlightened Oh Malsoon, who realized she should not let any bitterness hinder her progress, now that she had regained her youth. After a night of practice, Oh Malsoon's dance skills were passable. In addition to dancing, she worked hard on singing and other physical activities. During a workout, Choi Ha-na pulled her aside, determined to help Oh Malsoon overcome her old-fashioned way of speaking. The other members had nicknamed her the nursing home due to her elderly tone. Displeased, Choi Ha-na set up new speaking rules for Oh Malsoon, such as adding super before emphatic phrases, like super tasty or super beautiful, and familiarizing her with slang and quirky abbreviations used by the younger generation. urging Mal-soon to drop all old dialects and memorize these new expressions. Witnessing her granddaughter's thoughtfulness, Mal-soon felt deeply warmed. However, a crisis was also looming. The other members of the girl group produced a packet of medications, claiming they all belonged to Emily, including antidepressants and sleeping pills. They suspected that Emily's singing and dancing skills were due to the effects of these drugs. Mal-soon believed that if Emily needed medication to that extent, the members should be caring for her instead of taking the opportunity to target her. Mal-soon warned the members not to offend her again, or they would face her wrath. Mal-soon watched a video of a boy group dancing and discovered that Daniel was in the center position. Choi Hana told Mal-soon that Daniel used to be a core member of a legendary boy group. At one time, an obsessive fan stalked and harassed the group. Although the other members reported it to the police, Daniel later stepped forward to clarify that the person was his girlfriend, which led to a scandal and the disbandment of the boy group. Daniel, who had retired, then became a producer. Now, Daniel had received a message from an obsessive fan again, which threw him into panic. While Daniel was distressed, the elevator doors opened, and he saw Emily playfully twerking towards the elevator. Seizing the moment, Daniel invited Emily for hot pot. Emily indulged in eating, and Daniel couldn't help but joke that it felt like watching a live eating show. Mal-soon handed Daniel some fried chicken tenders, saying that only a well-fed person has the energy to work, and she also handed him a pill to relieve irritability. Watching the caring Mal-soon, Daniel looked at her with a smile. However, Mal-soon bluntly stated that she does not like younger men like Daniel, believing that only someone at least 60 years old qualifies as a real man. Daniel, who was drinking water, choked and looked incredulously at Emily. Teachers watching the girl group's training video could see Emily's rapid improvement to the level where she could keep up with the other members. However, the teachers also discussed her secret medication, which Daniel immediately defended, arguing that as teachers, they should not judge students in such a manner. By then, Choi Hana had joined Mal-soon's girl group as a new member. The company, however, accelerated their schedule, demanding an early review of the girl group's debut song and assessing the skills of all 6 members, with those not meeting the standards to be eliminated from the group. Besides practicing for her debut, Mal-soon also wandered around her neighborhood and learned that a shop handed down to 2 brothers was now ignored. The supermarket owner nearby told Mal-soon that rumors had spread online about the shop adding creamer to their soup, leading to a loss of business. During the conversation, the owner expressed her concerns about Mal-soon's departure from home, which touched Mal-soon. Just then, a slickly dressed elderly man approached the owner. Mal-soon recognized him as a womanizer who used to frequent her shop, charming women of all ages. Seeing him now trying to charm the supermarket owner, Mal-soon quickly pulled the owner aside, falsely claiming she could read the man's face and advising her to stay away from him. After leaving the supermarket, Mal-soon went to a sauna where she performed splits and back bends in front of elderly grandmothers, earning their envy. While eavesdropping on their conversation, Mal-soon learned that her daughter was looking for a house, apparently planning to move out. Mal-soon silently complained that her family seemed to be enjoying life more in her absence. During this time, the only person who kept in contact with Mal-soon was Mr. Park, a friend for over 60 years. Mr. Park searched for her almost daily, finding life dull without her. That night, Mal-soon answered a call from an excited Mr. Park, who trembled with happiness and eagerly asked how she was doing. However, the young-looking Mal-soon was right behind him, telling Mr. Park, "It's me, the one you're looking for." Mr. Park, utterly confused, didn't understand what the young lady was talking about. Mal-soon then reminisced about an event from over 50 years ago. It was the day of a wrestling final, and Mr. Park was competing to impress her. He had vowed to win, but mid-match, he suffered stomach pains from eating lamb and lost. Hearing this, Mr. Park realized the young woman was indeed Mal-soon. She told Mr. Park she planned to return home to see if her family truly cared for her and asked for his help. That night, Mr. Park went to Mal-soon's home and suggested to her daughter and son-in-law that they host Emily, whom he falsely claimed was the granddaughter of Mal-soon's friend, for a week. They hesitantly agreed. To prevent Mal-soon's identity from being discovered, Mr. Park gave her a new phone and advised her to avoid saying anything that could give her away. The next day, led by Mr. Park, Oh Mal soon returned home and unexpectedly encountered the woman who looked exactly like her older self in the courtyard. Moments earlier, her granddaughter Choi Ha-na had met the woman at the company, mistaking her for her grandmother, and had helped her into a taxi to send her grandmother home. Now the young and old Oh Mal soon faced each other, and it seemed their secrets were about to be revealed. To avoid detection by her family, Oh Mal soon quickly pulled a woman aside to question her identity. To Oh Mal soon's surprise, the woman called her sister. Realizing her identity, Oh Mal soon coldly pushed away her sister, who was embracing her, confused why her sister would impersonate her. No one here welcomes her, Oh Mal soon realized, now appearing young herself. How could her sister recognize her in this state? As her sister was about to speak, the driver watching them called, warning that the sister was violating terms. Reminded by the driver, the sister had to leave. This driver was the one who gave Oh Mal soon her youth. Because she went out without permission, Oh Mal soon was late to today's rehearsal. Daniel kept calling her. Just yesterday, Oh Mal soon had capriciously told him she would move out of the dorm for 10 days to handle personal matters, but promised it wouldn't affect the debut song's approval. Now, Emily is late, violating the agreement. The mentor in charge of the debut said, Oh Mal soon broke the trainee rules and banned her from training for a week. Daniel tried to speak for Oh Mal soon, but the mentor wouldn't budge. After other members finished training, Daniel took Emily to dinner. Tonight, the president was treating the team. Seeing the president who stole her song, Oh Mal soon crossed her arms and was cold, constantly insinuating about people who succeed by stealing. She even walked up to pour the president a drink, asking if she was happy living like that. The president was embarrassed. Oh Mal soon quickly changed her statement, claiming she was just curious about the president's exciting life. Others gossiped about Emily's rudeness. Daniel pulled Emily out, criticizing her lack of basic manners. Emily's apology was perfunctory, and Daniel was very upset. After dinner, the president asked to talk to Daniel alone, trying to defend Emily, but the president felt Emily was intentionally provoking her and asked Daniel not to involve her in the future, preferably letting Emily leave the team voluntarily. Late at night, looking at a photo of team members with the president, Oh Mal soon's memories were pulled back to the past. Decades ago, the president stole a song belonging to Oh Mal soon, becoming famous with it and never returning to the small tavern to see Oh Mal soon. While recalling the past, Oh Mal soon practiced alone in the studio, leaving an inspirational sticky note before leaving, signifying that her journey to chase her dreams was just beginning. During this time, Oh Mal soon began living at home as Emily. Her daughter, Ban Ji-suk, unaware of Emily's true identity, asked her not to touch her mother's things. Oh Mal soon couldn't break old habits, reminding Ban Ji-suk to eat breakfast and inquiring why she was frequently visiting a real estate company. Ban Ji-suk was surprised, as the unfamiliar girl spoke and had the same tone as her mother, but she just thought this was a strange girl. From home to the company, Oh Mal soon saw that Daniel looked upset, seemingly troubled. Last night, Daniel discovered that someone had broken into his home. That evening, a fan who had been stalking and harassing him sent a message, causing Daniel to feel very panicked. Now, Daniel took a herbal pill given by Oh Mal soon. Just as he put it in his mouth, Oh Mal soon arrived and brought him a cup of red date tea she had brewed. Daniel verbally disapproved but looked at the tea tenderly. Meanwhile, the newly joined girl group member, Choi Ha-na, was having a tough time. She tried hard to fit in, but the other members did not welcome her. Choi Ha-na's joining meant fewer song and dance parts for the others, which upset them. That day, Choi Ha-na received a call from her mother inviting her to dinner. Her mother was worried about her daughter skipping university to become an idol. Therefore, in front of her mother, Choi Ha-na did not reveal her true situation, but assured her that everything was fine, and asked her mother to focus more on her grandmother. Faced with her stubborn daughter, Ban Ji-suk sighed helplessly. On the other side, Daniel took Oh Mal soon to the recording studio to check her recent singing skills. As soon as Oh Mal soon began to sing at the microphone, Daniel was relieved. However, Daniel noticed that Emily seemed to have a harmony in the chorus part that did not belong to her. Oh Malsoon claimed it was because the studio was haunted by a ghost sitting on Daniel's back. As the light suddenly flickered, Daniel became very scared. Oh Malsoon shone her phone's light on her face, startling Daniel, and laughed heartily at his scared expression. Later, her friend Mr. Park arrived and took Oh Malsoon for barbecue. After eating, they walked and talked about the resilience and astuteness of today's youth, contrary to Oh Malsoon's initial belief that they only complained. While shopping, Oh Malsoon insisted Mr. Park buy her a bouquet of flowers, unaware that they were being photographed. The next day, Oh Malsoon was late again for practice. After practice, she accused a member of deliberately giving her the wrong meeting time. Oh Malsoon believed in fair competition without underhanded tactics. However, the member argued that they worked too hard to let Oh Malsoon steal their debut opportunity. That night, the president contacted Daniel and showed him photos of Oh Malsoon and Mr. Park that looked intimate, secretly taken by the member who had given the wrong time. The president deemed Emily's behavior inappropriate, as such negative publicity could be fatal for an idol. Listing Emily's various misdemeanors, like being late and rude, the president urged Daniel not to indulge her. Daniel only promised to investigate further. That night, while practicing, Oh Malsoon received a call from Mr. Park, who had collected her pension for her, asking her to come to his house to get the money, which felt very comforting to her. Just as she agreed, Daniel appeared in the practice room and confronted Emily, demanding to know who the man on the phone, who was so kind to her, was. Seeing Emily unable to answer, Daniel got very angry, and finally, as a representative of the company, declared that Emily was eliminated. Oh Malsoon tried to explain, but an angry Daniel wouldn't listen to a word. Oh Malsoon got angry too, realizing that Daniel saw her in such a negative light. After being kicked out of the company, Oh Malsoon returned home and continued to practice dancing unwillingly. Hungry, she opened the fridge to find something to eat, but left dissatisfied with the options. Choi Ha-na, who heard the news, returned home worried about Oh Malsoon, fearing she might really be expelled from the group. Oh Malsoon was confident, however, telling Choi Ha-na to ensure she stayed in the company by her own merit. While they were talking, music from a seniors' festival nearby reached them. Oh Malsoon and Choi Ha-na joined the crowd, seeing a neighbor lady singing and dancing on stage. Confident in her own singing skills, Oh Malsoon took the stage with Choi Ha-na as the strange sisters, performing a number. Oh Malsoon sang lead while Choi Ha-na played the guitar. Their performance quickly captivated the audience, who clapped and danced along, creating a lively atmosphere. After the festival, the local supermarket owner became a devoted fan of Oh Malsoon, who was eating noodles at the supermarket entrance when Daniel unexpectedly appeared. Moments before, Choi Ha-na had returned to the company to explain Mr. Park and Oh Malsoon's relationship to Daniel, who then realized his misunderstanding. Now facing Oh Malsoon, Daniel felt guilty and struggled to apologize. The owner teased them, assuming Daniel was Oh Malsoon's boyfriend, which Daniel did not deny. They walked to Mr. Park's house, where his son planned to rent out the house as a guest house. Daniel planned to buy it and move in next to Oh Malsoon's house. Under Oh Malsoon's influence, Mr. Park intended to turn Daniel away, but his son, motivated by money, had Daniel sign the rental contract. After finalizing the contract, Daniel finally apologized sincerely to Oh Malsoon. That night, Oh Malsoon was conflicted about how to treat Daniel the next day, whether to forgive him or to keep her distance. While pondering, her daughter Banji Suk was drinking to relieve stress. Unable to watch, Oh Malsoon scolded her in a motherly tone. Drunk, Banji Suk spoke her true feelings, revealing her deep dislike for her mother and believing that her mother had never understood her feelings. Oh Malsoon didn't argue but snatched the wine glass from her daughter and glared at her useless son-in-law. Despite resenting her daughter, seeing the almost empty fridge, Oh Malsoon couldn't help but feel soft-hearted. The next morning, the daughter and her husband thought the mother had secretly returned, as they found her husband eating the kimchi stew she had made. Meanwhile, Oh Malsoon was at Mr. Park's house, fearful of hearing more complaints from her daughter. Mr. Park tried to comfort Oh Malsoon while offering her a helmet to ride to the company. Suddenly, Daniel appeared, grabbed the helmet, and insisted Oh Malsoon ride in his car for her protection. Mr. Park objected, but Daniel argued it was to safeguard the artist. Watching Oh Malsoon leave with another man, Mr. Park felt dejected. At the company, Oh Malsoon declared to the members that she couldn't control what others said about her. As long as she hadn't done anything wrong, it was enough. Regarding the debut, she emphasized fair competition based on everyone's abilities. The night before, Choi Hana had expressed similar sentiments, recognizing everyone's hard work towards their dreams, but also noting that there are no permanent enemies or friends. She hoped for minimal awkwardness among them, a lesson she learned from her grandmother. The next day was the debut song assessment. That morning, Daniel, who had moved next door to Oh Mal-soon, slept well for the first time in a while. His colleagues were upset, believing Daniel had never been calm or neutral about anything involving Oh Mal-soon. During the song assessment, the president attended to specifically observe Oh Mal-soon. Initially, she performed well, but upon noticing the president's watchful eye and recalling a past embarrassing moment on stage, Oh Mal-soon panicked and missed a beat, leading to a failed assessment. Unaware of the situation, Mr. Park visited the company to see Oh Mal-soon and brought her new clothes. Oh Mal-soon, in a bad mood, told Mr. Park that his visits could cause her trouble. Mr. Park realized that today's Oh Mal-soon was a young artist about to debut, no longer someone he could playfully interact with as before. Reflecting on their past, Mr. Park remembered how over 50 years ago, Oh Mal-soon was his first love. He was heartbroken to find out upon returning from military service abroad that she was pregnant with another man's child. Despite missing their chance, Mr. Park had never let go of that bittersweet first love. Yesterday, after Oh Mal-soon left in Daniel's car, Mr. Park angrily rebuked Daniel. To make matters worse, his son had taken a liking to Oh Mal-soon, changed his style overnight, and announced plans to date her, preparing his father for what was to come. Lost in thoughts of what could have been with Oh Mal-soon, Mr. Park didn't notice his speeding motorcycle was malfunctioning. That evening, Oh Mal-soon couldn't reach Mr. Park. Both she and Choi Hana believed they would be eliminated from the assessment due to their poor performance. However, the mentors were divided in their opinions. Some thought the two couldn't even keep up with basic formations, making debut impossible. Others saw potential in Oh Mal-soon's singing ability and mature voice, and in Choi Hana's unique raspy voice and arranging skills. With some training, they believed the duo could become famous. The mentors were uncertain, but then they received a link to a video of Oh Mal-soon and Choi Hana singing at the music festival a few days earlier. The video had been posted online, and their singing and arranging skills were highly praised by netizens. Oh Mal-soon even became a popular internet celebrity among local students. On the same day, Oh Mal-soon heard that a celebrity was spotted nearby and quickly followed the supermarket owner to see the star. The crowd was packed, and Oh Mal-soon was pushed and nearly fell when a handsome man suddenly appeared and caught her. Oh Mal-soon was confused, but the handsome man, with a familiar tone, cautioned her to be careful and complimented her clothes. Looking at the clothes Mr. Park had given her, Oh Mal-soon wondered if the handsome man could be Mr. Park. The handsome man revealed several past events about Oh Mal-soon that only Mr. Park knew. Oh Mal-soon finally confirmed that he was indeed Mr. Park. She asked Mr. Park if he had also met the mysterious taxi driver, but Mr. Park did not respond to the question. Instead, he agreed to meet Oh Mal-soon again next time. During this period, her sister moved into her sister's house posing as Oh Mal-soon and lied to Oh Mal-soon's daughter and son-in-law, claiming she was Oh Mal-soon. The daughter could sense that the mother in front of her had changed, such as becoming more fashionable, starting to speak in Seoul dialect and English, among other things. The sister claimed she was just sorting out her thoughts and planned not to interfere in her daughter's life anymore. The daughter and son-in-law also needed to reduce their dependence on her. The daughter felt this was good as it allowed for an equal conversation with her mother. From then on, the sister lived in Oh Mal-soon's room under a false identity. At that moment, the real Oh Mal-soon appeared, looking serious, and confronted her sister about why she was impersonating her and entering her house. She demanded that her sister stop. The sisters had been estranged for a long time, but the sister did not intend to end the blood relationship. Instead, she insisted on staying to understand her sister's life better and let her sister enjoy her regained youth. Oh Mal-soon was helpless, as she could not tell her daughter and son-in-law that she was the real Oh Mal-soon. After the sister stayed, She began looking through Mal Soon's photo albums in the room and found photos of the two sisters that had fallen out of the album, showing that her sister had not truly forgotten her. After assuming Mal Soon's identity, the sister began to deliberately get closer to her son-in-law, asking him to help restore her relationship with her daughter. After the son-in-law agreed, the sister visited a soup and rice restaurant as Mal Soon. In the restaurant, neighbors were discussing the recently disappeared Mr. Park, suspecting that Mr. Park and Mal Soon had eloped. The neighbors could see that Mr. Park and Mal Soon were very close. To protect her sister's reputation, the sister told the neighbors that her type was Tom Hanks, not someone like Mr. Park. Mal Soon was troubled by the situation. Mr. Park, who had also become younger like her, suddenly appeared, and her sister had taken her place, catching her off guard. Daniel suddenly appeared, and Mal Soon was curious about the results of the trainee's debut song review, worried that she and Choi Ha-na might be eliminated. Daniel firmly stated that he would take responsibility for her no matter what. The word responsibility made Mal Soon's heart flutter. She suspected that Emily and Daniel had a future arrangement, but Daniel just smiled and did not answer, while Mal Soon blushed and continued to fantasize. The video of Mal Soon and Choi Ha-na singing on the senior stage became very popular online. Netizens praised the legendary sisters' voices. Daniel saw this as a great marketing opportunity and instructed his staff to release a press statement. However, opinions varied during the meeting to decide which members should debut. Some thought that Emily and Choi Ha-na were just seeking attention and were merely lucky. Daniel argued that the video's popularity proved the public's reaction, which was the best criterion for deciding who should debut. Daniel was working on the girl group's debut song, which matched Emily's style and personality. With the video's popularity and Daniel's support, Emily and Choi Ha-na were quietly pleased, as it seemed unlikely they would be eliminated soon. However, other group members accused Emily of acting independently behind their backs, claiming it wasn't a fair competition. Mal Soon defended herself, stating she had not cheated but had won praise through her own talent. She argued that the members should focus on improving themselves rather than feeling jealous. However, Emily's words angered the members even more, who thought she was arrogant. Kim Ae-shim, the president, who had stolen a song from Mal Soon 50 years ago and became famous overnight, was also dissatisfied with Emily. Whenever Kim Ae-shim saw Emily singing on the senior stage, she was reminded of the young Mal Soon. After stealing Mal Soon's song and becoming famous, Mal Soon confronted Kim Ae-shim, calling her a thief. Kim Ae-shim felt no remorse, arguing that the man who wrote the song for Mal Soon was her beloved, and she knew him before Mal Soon did, claiming she was his muse. Mal Soon felt that Kim Ae-shim stole not just a song, but her whole life and dreams. However, facing Mal Soon's tears, Kim Ae-shim left hurriedly without looking back. Now, troubled by the resemblance between the past Mal Soon and Emily, Kim Ae-shim felt uneasy and even had someone investigate Emily. Kim Ae-shim met with the company's mentors, hinting she did not like Emily and planned to remove her from the group in her own way. She asked the mentors to prepare a replacement plan quickly. Choi Ha-na's mother and Mal Soon's daughter, Ban Ji-suk, also watched the viral video. More than her daughter Choi Ha-na's rare smile, Ban Ji-suk was intrigued by Emily on the screen, as Emily's appearance always brought back memories of her mother singing at home. One night, Mal Soon saw Mr. Park's son crying on the steps of a guest house, worried about his father who had not returned home for days. Knowing the truth, Mal Soon reassured him lightly. At that moment, Mr. Park, now transformed into a handsome man, appeared on a bike and greeted Mal Soon naturally. Daniel, who was present, became jealous and asked Mal Soon who the handsome man was. Mal Soon found herself unable to explain. Mr. Park kindly extended his hand to Daniel for an introduction, stating his intention to stay at the guest house. However, Daniel responded coldly. To pursue Mal Soon again, Mr. Park decided to move into his son's guest house next to Mal Soon's house. The next day, when Daniel saw Mal Soon at the company, he quickly closed the elevator door. Mal Soon squeezed in anyway. Daniel questioned her, suspecting a relationship with Mr. Park and warned her not to start a romantic scandal before her official debut. Oh Mal-soon was upset by Daniel's attitude. Meanwhile, a mentor spoke with her privately due to President Kim A-shim's concerns. The mentor, feeling conflicted, reminded Oh Mal-soon to move back to the company dormitory quickly instead of causing scandals, especially with Daniel. The mentor advised Oh Mal-soon to be careful in her actions. Elsewhere, Mr. Park went shopping for clothes for Oh Mal-soon, telling the salesperson it was a gift for his girlfriend. Seeing Mr. Park wandering the streets, Oh Mal-soon worried about rumors involving them. When Daniel returned to the guest house, he saw Mr. Park and Emily playing around and got angry, demanding Mr. Park stay away from Emily. Mr. Park refused. Oh Mal-soon, seeing the men about to fight over her, quickly intervened, explaining that Mr. Park was just a childhood friend, urging Daniel not to misunderstand. Daniel was reassured and drove Oh Mal-soon to the company the next morning. Noticing Oh Mal-soon looked tired, he played a song from his artist days, claiming it was known as a calming agent by female fans. He then shielded her eyes from the sunlight with his hand. That evening, while having tea at the guest house, Oh Mal-soon noticed Daniel seemed troubled. He mentioned having nightmares where dream figures appear in reality. Oh Mal-soon playfully suggested beating up such figures if they scared him, and offered to protect him from female ghosts. Daniel laughed at her playful words, but Oh Mal-soon then seriously advised facing fears bravely. Feeling warmed by Oh Mal-soon's comforting words, Daniel touched her head gently as he left, which made her heart flutter. That night, reflecting on Oh Mal-soon's advice not to run away, Daniel felt particularly warm-hearted. However, the next morning, Daniel and Mr. Park ran into each other outside the guest house room, clearly disliking each other. Deciding to teach Daniel a lesson, Mr. Park tampered with the shower, switching off the hot water. Caught by the sudden change to cold water, Daniel caught a cold. Afterward, Daniel left a note on his room door instructing Mr. Park's son to fix the water heater, but Mr. Park secretly took the note. Mr. Park admired his new body in the room. Previously, due to aging, his eyesight had deteriorated, and he had to wear reading glasses to read books and newspapers. After seeing Daniel's muscular arms, Mr. Park began working out. Now, he matched Daniel in looks and physique, and started writing letters to Oh Mal-soon. Despite the changes, Oh Mal-soon remained an unforgettable presence for him. Mr. Park also caught the attention of a TV station that wanted to sign him. Before signing, he specifically asked if there were any restrictions on dating. Eager to sign Mr. Park, the station emphasized that dating was allowed but should be kept discreet. Mr. Park signed the contract, and the debut of the girl group was approaching. Daniel and the company staff worked day and night, while Oh Mal-soon and the other members diligently practiced their dance routines. Remembering Daniel's gestures like blocking the sunlight and touching her head, Oh Mal-soon often felt unsettled. During practice, one of the members suddenly felt unwell and even fainted due to overexertion. Following Oh Mal-soon's advice, the members had been practicing intensely, trying to prove themselves through talent rather than exclusion. The member was rushed to the hospital and immediately wanted to return to practice after waking up, fearing elimination for lack of effort. Daniel, however, told her to rest properly and assured no further evaluations would happen before debut. Oh Mal-soon visited the hospital, bringing homemade rice porridge and fish soup, asking the nurse to deliver them. A few days later, the member was discharged, and her friends waited at the dorm. Touched, she spoke kindly to Choi Ha-na for the first time and personally thanked Oh Mal-soon the next day. The good news was that Daniel had completed the girl group's debut song, which all members were pleased with. He announced that the other members would remain a mystery for now, with Oh Mal-soon and Choi Ha-na releasing the debut teaser under the guise of retro goddesses, collaborating with past singers. During this time, a fan gave Choi Ha-na 2 teddy bears as gifts. Later, Oh Mal-soon discovered cameras hidden in the bears' eyes. Concerned, Daniel instructed Oh Mal-soon to stay with him wherever she went during this period. At night, he personally escorted her home, showing a level of care that went beyond the typical producer-artist relationship. At the guest house, Daniel reached out for the herbs that comforted him. These days, Oh Mal-soon had been living at home as herself, while her sister also pretended to be Oh Mal-soon and stayed at her house. However, Oh Mal-soon remained distant and cold toward her sister, asking her not to interfere in her life. But actually, Oh Mal-soon has never forgotten about her sister's past. Their father was bedridden, and their mother was in a relationship with an American, which led to ridicule from the village children. Despite her unfriendly attitude towards her sister the next day, Oh Mal-soon still cooked a full meal for her sister and son-in-law. The son-in-law immediately recognized that the dishes were his mother-in-law's specialties and tasted exactly the same. He even suspected that Emily, who was living in their house, might be his mother-in-law's illegitimate daughter. At the dinner table, the sister covered for Oh Mal-soon, claiming that these dishes were typical of their hometown and that everyone there could make them. However, during the meal, Oh Mal-soon's daughter, Bon Ji-suk, suddenly announced her plan to move out, saying she needed to keep a proper distance from her mother. Speaking in Oh Mal-soon's voice, the sister tried to converse with Bon Ji-suk, but Bon Ji-suk was upset and said that living under the same roof didn't mean they were a family. This hurt Oh Mal-soon. But privately, the sister expressed a hope that Oh Mal-soon would listen to her daughter's heart with her own, not just her ears. That night, the son-in-law secretly checked his wife's phone and found that she had been frequently visiting someone in the hospital. Driven by curiosity, he followed her to the hospital and discovered she was visiting a dying old man. From Bon Ji-suk's conversation with another elderly person, the son-in-law learned that the man in the hospital bed was his father-in-law. The old man rebuked Oh Mal-soon for her indifference, having ignored her husband for decades, and urged Bon Ji-suk to tell her mother the truth about her father's illness and impending death. Meanwhile, there was trouble on Oh Mal-soon's side. While joking with Daniel at the guest house, President Kim A-shim arrived. Recently, Kim A-shim had been investigating Oh Mal-soon privately, but found no information about her. Furthermore, noticing that Emily was living in Oh Mal-soon's house, and considering Emily's resemblance and attitude towards her, the president began to suspect something. Arriving at the guest house, Kim A-shim took a firm stance, convinced of Oh Mal-soon's motives, and demanded she leave the girl group and the company. Unexpectedly, Daniel defended Oh Mal-soon staunchly, even declaring that if the president forced Oh Mal-soon to leave, he would leave as well.